Welcome to the Soil Camp Podcast, Episode 1. This podcast was produced and recorded with the support of CJSW Campus and Community Radio, found at 90.9 on the FM dial or at cjsw.com. As the soil is fundamental to the existence and well-being of the entire food web, so is acknowledging the land fundamental to Soil Camp. We give thanks to the Indigenous peoples who have cared for and lived with and on the land since time immemorial and who continue to tend to the more than human relationships here in Treaty 7 territory. We acknowledge the Blackfoot or Niitsitapi Confederacy, Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, the Ayahe Nakota Nations, Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney, and the Tsuut'ina Nation, as well as the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. A bit of background about Soil Camp might help to give context. Soil Camp sprouted as a summer camp research design partnership, which centers the voices of racialized children and youth that started the month of July in 2021 on the Land of Dreams just east of Mohkinstsis, the Blackfoot name for the place where the Bow and the Elbow Rivers meet, currently called Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Many of the children and youth soil campers were intimately connected to the land in intergenerational and embodied ways before their displacement as refugees. Our pedagogical design focuses on learning with the soil, on the land, and in nature, which are simultaneously our teacher, classroom, and friend, as a space that aims to enact anti-colonialism and anti-oppression in and through learning. Together, we listen to the silenced voices of the soil, land, and displaced communities. In the winter of 2025, as the days are short, the weather is cold, and world news is grim, we are gathering around a table with tea and snacks to reflect and dream about summers with Soil Camp, while inviting you to listen in wherever and whenever you may be listening from. Just FYI, this recording was made in the field with a Zoom mic, so you might hear the odd background noise. My name is Son Edworthy, and I'm a junior high teacher currently on parental leave. I've been volunteering with Soil Camp in the summers for the last few years, and I'll be hosting this conversation with some of the founding collaborators as they reflect back to how it started and what it's about. Joining me today are
Miwa Takeuchi,
Kori Czuy,
Mathew, Tatenda, Mambo.
I can start because I just finished eating one onigiri, so good timing. So you can keep eating.
Kitchen pedagogy right now.
Exactly. I think Soil Camp started with an invitation from one of our community partners, CJSW Land of Dreams, who runs this community urban regenerative farm. And then it was during the COVID-19 pandemic. So the timing was important because we work a lot with families and children who experienced forced displacement due to war and multiple forms of violence. And they were experiencing heightened isolation, social isolation that time during the pandemic. So the invitation came, can we pedagogically design something on the land for people to safely reconnect with each other and foster a sense of community in the time of such a heightened isolation? That's how it started. And that was about 5 years ago. And actually, Tatenda here connected me with them. So it came from Tatenda's way.
Oh, you're the OG.
I didn't know that. How did I connect you to
Tatenda? You connected me with Rod, and Rod reached to me, and so that's how it started. And we try to really honor the soil, which is overly overlooked more than humans. And we sometimes neglect the voice of the soil, maybe except for someone like you, Mathew, soil scientist. But I think generally, like even looking at K-12 education, very little presence the soil has in the curriculum and pedagogy. So we really wanted to center that because the soil is a transdisciplinary medium to connect all of us. Like looking at the table today, we all come from different disciplinary background and expertise. But if we anchor soil as the medium to connect, we can come together to be connected. So that's kind of the idea.
Soil is the connector. Yeah, like you said, it's such an overlooked. It's like this thing that you get in a package now, and it's just there, it's dirty, and even that conversation of like soil versus dirt. It's like interesting to think about that.
For sure.
And how do we, reconnect with not just the soil, but the caretakers of these lands in connection with that soil, and how amazing that has been.
You are so much, you gifted so much. I think the way that you teach us about, say, humility, reciprocity, have been the center value for whatever we do. And with your voice and the wisdom that you shared early on, I think we were very much guided by it. So thank you, Kori, always.
Thank you.
As people were answering the question, how did you become involved in Soil Camp, some interesting connections came up.
You had asked me to do something on mushrooms, I think, and you also needed worms. I think you had needed a source of worms, but then something happened. I was like, well, I happen to have worms.
Yes, and Tatenda and I now share extended families, which are worms. Amazing.
Yeah, so it was through the mushrooms and that soil camp that Miwa invited me to come and talk to the kids about mushrooms. And I think for myself, like my motivation behind it was, I think like fungi is really cool, and I think a lot of people don't know a lot about it. I think most people think of fungi as like the button mushrooms or mold that they're deathly afraid of, but there's a whole other gamut of stuff in between and beyond that. And I think it's exposing people to more of that, I think, connects them to nature in a different way, but also in the way that fungi takes what is dead or not as useful and produces something beautiful from it. Mm-hmm. I think there's a wonderful story about nutrient cycling in there. A less technical way to say that is like regeneration and making use of everything and finding purpose for it. And that's how I've always used it, working with students. So the chance to share that with other people was very attractive to me.
So my background is soil science. I went to school for a long time to think about soil and whatnot. So one of the kind of interesting case studies that when I went out there and kind of looked around, and it's like, this is just what I do, is just kind of see what do we have to work with here, and looked at the satellite imagery to see what was the history of the site and whatnot. I found that that site, there was an ephemeral wetland. So ephemeral wetland is a wetland that is wet during times of the year and dry. It's not wet all the time, it's not dry all the time. And then that was remnant that was not disturbed. And then there was a roadway where we had that one site. It was an old roadbed where they, basically when they were building the road, they used that to haul equipment. So it was heavily compacted. And what compaction means is basically when your soil is a combination of solids and void space. And basically compaction is when those void spaces are lost and the solids are pressed together. So getting more and more like a rock versus a sponge. And so what that does is that compaction reduces the ability of soil to allow water to move through it. And so basically what we did, we put the rings on the ground and then poured water on it, and then you just time to see how long it takes for the water to move into the soil. And I think when we did it on the compacted site, it was like a really long time.
It was like 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah.
It was wild.
And then on the wetland site, it just was like going through a sieve.
Right? Yeah, so what's the difference? It was dramatic.
Everybody shared sort of what brought you to Soil Camp, but
We didn't ask you, Son.
Oh, me too. Okay, right. I love gardening, and I'm a community gardener, but I'm also a teacher, so got to come in kind of as a volunteer facilitator, like helping out with on the ground with the children when they arrived, and how can we help them transition from the bus to the land, and because once you bring like a bus full of children, it's not the intellectual idea. It's like, okay, we're here. We have like, what are we gonna do? We're gonna, play some games, and yeah. So.
And the song teaches children how to set fire.
Yeah,
It's very important.
Here, the conversation shifts to discuss how can we listen to the soil.
I think when we say learning with the land, we can honor the agency of the land and treat land as a teacher instead of just someone who we always step on.
And I think, that teacher, that land is medicine too, and how the land helps us in every way. I was thinking about this before. I was thinking about Hal Eagletail from Tatenda. We were talking about, you just need to get dirty. Like, that's the problem. Like, kids don't get dirty anymore, Just like go play in the dirt. Those like microorganisms are so important for immunity, for everything, Maybe there'd be less allergies. Go suck on a rock, Maybe don't take my advice. I'm not that type of doctor.
I'll just touch on something that came to mind when you asked a question about learning with the soil.
Yeah.
And I think I've always had difficulty with that approach because I don't know how to listen to the soil very well. And I think I've shared with both of you guys this before, like a lot of how my validated academic knowledge comes from this like Western perspective of science. So this idea of like listening to the soil and learning with the soil I don't feel like I have developed the sensors to be able to absorb those lessons. So I've learned a lot from all of you, especially like challenging my mind frame. Like these ideas, like there's a paper you asked me to look at one time, and there's stuff like reciprocity and the more than humans, and I was like, okay, this is an interesting concept. Like, yes, I definitely do respect the life forms in the soil, but I didn't know there was a whole like academic line of thinking and documenting of all this stuff, and this whole idea of not like putting my imprint on the soil and how it functions. You were talking about it one time, and I was like, am I just exchanging compost for vegetables? Like, is there more to this relationship? Like, like how much am I letting the soil express itself? And all the like soil pits I've dug with you, Mathew, and it's like, wow, okay, I have a much better understanding now of like, this is what healthy soil looks like.
One of the things that's come out of Soil Camp is one of these questions I now is to have them think about what their relationship to the soil is. Most times they say they don't have one, and I was like, yes, you do. It might be you do. You just have to think about it.
And that concludes episode 1 of the Soil Camp podcast. In upcoming episodes, we will explore some of the themes of Soil Camp, including translanguaging and connecting with the land through art. Many thanks to Miwa, Kori, Tatenda, and Mathew, and thanks to the Soil Camp project, which you can find at soilcamp.ca. And big thanks to CJSW Campus and Community Radio Station for supporting the production of the podcast. Find this podcast and other incredible programming online at cjsw.com.